What's going on? It's the RPO College Football Podcast. I am so excited to be back. We are a week removed from being on, so I hope y'all didn't miss us too much, but I hope you enjoy a lot of the Senior Bowl stuff. I'm your humble host, Jerome Jones, and we got my man, Mr. Ray Roberts, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, Ray?
I'm good, Jerome. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I just came back from the Senior Bowl. It was a great time down there, man. As you see in the background, we got some Senior Bowl, footage back there as we're talking and stuff like that. But it was great to be down there, man. It was great to be, around the players and do a lot of interviews. So if you haven't seen our interviews and stuff like that, go check us out on our social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, on Inside the Hashes. Quick little plug right there in the beginning, like not against our usual kind of thing, but make sure you go check that out because we got some cool interviews, some great photos of what was going down there and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it was a great weekend. Got to talk to a lot of great players, got to network with a lot of people within the industry, people from NFL Network, people from the Draft Network, people from Eagle Scouting reports and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun, man. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the Senior Bowl. Before I do, man, I miss you, Ray. I miss you. How was your week, man?
It was good. I was busy at work like usual, and I didn't get to watch a lot of the practices, but I did watch some of it, and I
Yeah,
got to watch the game. So I kept my mind involved as much as I could. So
yeah. The only bad thing about the Senior Bowl was 2 out of the 3 days we were able to go to the practice. The third day, which is I feel like is the most important day of the Senior Bowl practice, that Thursday practice. The media was not able to go there. Obviously, they had the NFL Network, but it rained that day, so we were mainly in our Airbnb just watching the practices from TV, like most of y'all that had the practices on TV and got to see that. So it was a kind of meh day because it's already raining. It was kind of cold that day, and we didn't get to see the practice and go to the practice. So that was a bummer, but game day definitely made up for it. So it was a fun, exciting day. It was beautiful out there. I was out there taking my getting photos and stuff like that. It was a cool, really cool experience. So let's get right into it, man, because I want to do some recap of the Senior Bowl, man, because every year, obviously, we go to it and we get to go. But the most important thing is to see how these players progress, if they progress, or if there's anything that makes us want to go back to the tape. It's not a final decision like, oh, that player is not good or this is not. I really take a lot of the negatives with a grain of salt. I'll take a lot of the really high positive with a grain of salt. I look for that kind of middle, like, all right, now I need to go watch more tape because I seen this that I didn't think he was that impressive before, and see if there was some improvement from some of those defects and some of the things as well. So, right off the bat, Ray, what were some Senior Bowl things that popped off to you, or normally pops off to you that you kind of look for in the Senior Bowl?
as far as the game, I thought that the offenses were like a little ahead of the defenses. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it was really hard
Whoa,
to.
tell me. Go back. You said the offense was ahead of the defense?
Oh, I think so.
Ooh. Okay,
I think
that's
so.
interesting. Go
I
ahead.
think that. Don't get me wrong. I think that the defenses played well,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that the offenses did like what they could do in a system. Well, for one, we know it's easier to play defense than it is
Oh
offense.
yeah, 100%.
Tell the linemen do this, tell the linebackers do that.
Yeah,
You're probably calling like very basic plays on defense,
yeah,
but the same is true on offense.
yeah.
And the quarterbacks, I thought, played, at least Malik Willis played really well. I was really impressed with how well he played, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think he stood out a little bit, especially I got to watch some of the practice in the rain. He was really the only quarterback that played well in the rain, that practiced the day it rained.
He did. He did.
But I just thought like there was nothing on defense where I saw guys that played well, but I
Mm-hmm.
was more in practice with the defensive players in practice. I'm sorry. I was more
Impressive.
excited about the defensive players in practice, what they look like, how they did in their like in line drills and stuff like that. I know the score wasn't that high, so
It wasn't.
but I mean, I just didn't think anything exceptional about the defense, except for like the cornerback play was non-existent because no one really threw the ball that much. So it was hard to evaluate them guys. So
I totally agree with you on that front. If you're looking for your DBs at the Senior Bowl, that didn't move the needle near or nay really. The one I'll say is the one person I know. I mean, even in practice, it was kind of like that. Just from, and I'm gonna kind of bring this up. We're going to talk about the quarterbacks in each position anyway, but the quarterback play was very subpar in my opinion. Yeah, some people that rose better than others, but the QB position was very subpar. I like I said, this is my fourth Senior Bowl. This is probably the worst Senior Bowl play I've seen. Quarterback play from the Senior Bowl I've seen in 4 years. I mean, and it's not a knock against any of the quarterbacks or anything like that, because I think some guys were better than others, but as a collective group, it wasn't nothing that like popped off to me with these guys. I mean, every other year, like even Kellen Mond from last year, I believe he got drafted. Had some look. He was looking pretty good, and at least in the game last year, and I believe he got MVP if I'm not mistaken. So it's like even each year, it's not even about the names per se, because we had some. I think the year before they had like a crazy amount of quarterback great names, but it's not really about the names of the players. It's more of like the collective group. It was very subpar, so you couldn't see much from the receivers. You couldn't see much from the DBs because there wasn't much action going on in that point.
Right.
The part I do disagree with you is the defense was dominated, I think, throughout the entire week. I mean, that's even defensive line is against offensive line. I mean, national team had 8 sacks, right? I don't know if you noticed that. National team had 8 sacks in one game.
And I agree with that. I think the line play on the defense was really good.
Yeah.
My thing is, were they good or was everything really sloppy on offense?
I'll give you that. Because
I'm kind of looking at the highlights of the game as we're talking, and I see really sloppy play on both sides of the ball, really.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it was. But I do think, the defensive line definitely dominate, and I think that's besides tight end group, I think tight end is probably the deepest. There's not a lot of big names that you'll probably get in the first round type of tight ends, but like it's a very great tight end class. But I think the next best one is defensive line, hands down.
Defensive line, hands down. Oh, hands down.
Oh yeah, we're probably gonna have 2, maybe even 3 in the top 5.
Yeah, hands down, the defensive line play was tremendous. But again, it's easier to play defensive line than it is to play offensive line.
Definitely. No, I agree.
Especially because as we know, everything about the offensive line is continuity. How do you get continuity with 3 days of practice?
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about that. You're definitely right about that. So it was I mean, again, I will say this in the beginning of the game, it was very a snooze fest. It was a lot of punting. I think it was like 3-4 punts straight back to back, almost 3 and outs each side. And then things started ramping up a little bit later on. But I will say in a general sense, it was a fun game. It was a defensive game, which I like, obviously. I don't like a defensive game where there's no offense at all, but at the same time, I like a good defensive game. And me and you, Ray, say that a lot. And I think that the running backs they had some success, and it was a fun game in general. I just thought it was a fun game. So I will say that I did have a point that I was going to say right before I said that, but I forgot. So anyway, we're gonna move on. But yeah, like I said, it was a great game. I'm glad I went. Ray, hopefully you get to go some next year, hopefully. But let's get into each position because I like to talk about each position when we're done there as well. We kind of touched in the quarterback play. Overall, the quarterback play wasn't that great. But I will kind of say some stats that I have right here. So Kenny Pickett, 6 for 6 for 89 yards and a touchdown. Desmond Ritter, 4 for 6, 68 yards, but 2 touchdowns. So he had the most touchdowns out of all the quarterbacks. Out of the national team, they only got sacked one time. Carson Strong was 6 for 11. He did have an interception with 67 yards. On the national, the American team, we had Malik Willis. He was only 2 for 4 for 11 yards and he got sacked once. Sam Howell was 6 for 9 for 67 yards. 67 must be the number. 67 yards for and he got sacked 3 times. And then we had Billy Zeppe. He was 8 for 13. He did have an interception, but he had 103 yards, so he had actually passed more than anybody. He did have an interception, and he did get sacked 4 times. So, Ray, anybody stand out to you from the Senior Bowl as far as quarterbacks?
Not in the game at all. No, I mean I basically got what I thought I was going to get. I don't think any of these guys are first round talents. I don't think any of them should be taken in the first round. We know at least 1 or 2 will be, maybe even 3.
I think it might be 3.
But I just don't. I think that after the Senior Bowl, my evaluation is pretty much the same thing. I think Malik Willis, if you want the dual threat guy, he's a guy that you should probably at least look at very closely.
Yeah.
If you want the pocket passer, you should look at Carson Strong. I think he has the most upside with arm talent. But again, I know he's coming off of an injury and he didn't play great. I don't think any of these guys play great. I think the defensive lines basically handled the cornerbacks and didn't allow them to really get their feet set and allow them to do a whole lot. I think Kenny Pickett was probably the guy who does a little bit on both sides. He has a decent arm and he's a solid athlete. But honestly, I was not impressed with the quarterback play. I wasn't. In practice, none of them were impressive except for Malik Willis.
Yeah, and it's funny because Malik Willis actually excelled in the rain. So
pretty
cool to see.
Right.
Obviously, we like to talk about the draft in this podcast, the RPO podcast. So, like I always say, make sure you check us out even after this podcast to listen to a lot of more in-depth draft analysis. But right now, we're going to try to kind of focus on the Senior Bowl since that was last Saturday. But based on what you learned, what your thought were before the Senior Bowl, who was your top 3 guys that came into the Senior Bowl, and did that change for you?
As far as position wise or total team total players wise?
Position wise. So let's say your number 1 guy was Carson Strong. Did he move down your list, or is it pretty much the same?
He didn't move down. He kind of stayed where he was. Again, I thought the same thing that I'm going to tell you right now. I think that Malik Willis, again, if you're looking for a guy who's athletic, who has arm strength, I would look at him. And if you look at a guy who you want a more traditional pocket passer, I would look at Carson Strong. Mm-hmm. If you want a guy, again, who's like a mixture of both, you're going to look at Kenny Pickett. But again, I don't have a good feeling for any of these guys at the next level. I don't. I think they all need a lot of work.
I agree. No, so I had Kenny. I had Kenny Pickett as my QB1, and then coming into the Senior Bowl, it didn't really move for me. So I still have him at number 1, but now I have a little bit more questions. A little bit. He wasn't that good in practice 1. He was struggling. He even admitted himself. So if you look at on our social media, we do have an interview with him on there at the Senior Bowl, and he did address that. But he did struggle in his first game, and that was pretty obvious. But practice. The second practice, he improved a little bit, but it wasn't like eye-popping improvements. Thursday, I didn't see much. Thursday, like I said, we got rained in, so I personally didn't see as much as I wanted to in practice. He looked very accurate during the game. And it wasn't too many of his throws wasn't just checkdowns. There was a couple of checkdowns. I was like glad he did checkdowns. I was like, man, all right, that was a great checkdown by him. He was 6 for 6 during the game. He didn't play that much. He did start the game. So I think that, like I said, the needle didn't really move with him because he didn't have an exciting game or week, but also he didn't really do too much to put his stock down. The only thing I will say is that he did fumble twice. He fumbled once in the first practice, and then it rained second practice. That was one of the games we were so able to get to go out to, and then he fumbled in that one too. So I know there was a lot of people that was a lot more down on him because of that. What's your take on what I just basically just said just now?
I like Carson Strong. I think he's the most polished pocket passer of the guys. Again, I have a hard time putting him. If I had to put him in order right now, I would go 1 and 1A with Malik Willis and Carson Strong. I have Kenny Pickett after both of them guys, though. I do.
Yeah.
I worry about his ability to hold on to the ball because of his small hand size, and I don't think that he did anything exceptional. I mean, I hear people talking about him like because of Joe Burrow, excelled his last year, and
the 1 year wonder kind of thing.
Kenny Pickett put up good numbers this year. I understand that, but it didn't change my meter on him. I think he's at best he's number 3 as a quarterback prospect. And then I have Sam Howell and Desmond Ritter 4 and 5. Again, Desmond Ritter was the guy that really, like, I didn't get a good feeling from him at all. But I mean, he had a good year at Cincinnati. He's going to have some teams look at him. We'll see what happens.
I just feel like Desmond Ritter is a gamer. He's not gonna practice well. He's not gonna make great decisions all the time. But I feel like he's a gamer. He's gonna he makes a way out of no way. He kind of reminds me of kind of like a Gardner Minshew, where he's not the most polished quarterback. He's not the greatest, but he's a gamer. He's not gonna wow you in practice, which another reason why I think he never really pushed the envelope for Jalen Hurts, because he's not a practice guy. He's a gamer, and I think that's the same thing with Desmond Ritter. That's why I'm scared to have him in my first round, because if you're my starting quarterback and you can't practice and you can't show me that you can fulfill what I'm asking you during practice, it's going to be really hard for me to put you out there on Sundays.
Well, I mean, like, you got to remember, so with some coaches, you earn playing time through practice.
Yep.
And again, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Did what you just gave me a description of Desmond Ritter? I would say the same thing about Sam Howell and Kenny Pickett. I don't think they're more than game managers, any of them. Yeah. And in the end, Malik Willis and Carson Strong could turn out to be the same thing. I mean, just be like nice, solid game managers. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, I would never take one of them guys in the first round. And some team is going to reach and do it. And I'll be honest with you. I'm glad it's not my GM that's going to do that. That's all.
No, you got a good year to have a quarterback, for real. I mean, my team don't do it either.
I mean, honestly, Jerome, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's debate on if the Eagles should draft a quarterback, just to go with that. And of course, people, as long as Tua is unproven like he is, there's always going to be people in Miami that think that. And I just use them two teams because we're the most familiar with them two teams, me and you, because I live in this area and I'm a Dolphins fan. Okay, but if you told me you had to – one of these guys has to be a starting quarterback, I would go Malik Willis. But if you told me what guys, if you had to take one in the first round, I wouldn't do it, period.
Well, I hear you. And that's the part that scares me, because the Eagles coaching staff were down there. Howard Roseman was down there. I was literally standing like 5-10 feet away from him. Sirianni came into the stands and was like literally right behind us. So, they were down there, man, and a lot of people say he was looking at the quarterback. So I hope there wasn't.
You know what, Jerome? If they don't look at the quarterbacks, they're not doing their job.
That's true.
So you got to remember like that. If you're not looking and evaluating every position, every player on the field, then you're not doing your job. So you got to do that.
I see how just getting giddy over seeing a quarterback and like his.
Well, you know as well as I do, if the Eagles take a quarterback, it'll be Malik Willis.
If the Eagles take a quarterback, all hell's going to break loose in Philly. Let's just say that.
Well, I don't. Again, if you take one of these quarterbacks in the first round, you're making a mistake.
100%.
I just don't agree with that. But I have done some mock drafts, and I've seen some mock drafts where Malik Willis has been there in the second round, and I've seen the Eagles take him. Now, I don't know how many. The Eagles have more than one second-round pick?
No, just one.
Okay, well, see, then I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But again, that's me. I mean, I'm not the Eagles GM, but that's what I wouldn't do it.
No, I agree.
I'm not reaching for a quarterback when I have a good and I'm not a huge Jalen Hurts fan, but Jalen Hurts is just as good as any of these guys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the only one that I think Carson Strong has a more arm talent than Jalen Hurts, and I think Malik Willis has a stronger arm than Jalen Hurts. But any of these other guys, he's as good as them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to the running back position. So what are some guys that stood out to you? I want to hear your opinion. You know, like I said, we had our Senior Bowl special, so I have my opinion. I want to hear more from you, right? Mainly during this, and I kind of chime in and stuff like that. So, running back positions. Out of everybody, who kind of shined to you? And if you want me to read some names off to you, I can.
I think Damian Pierce was the one guy who really played well, that showed out well. I think James Cook from Georgia, we kind of know that he's going to be a player. Yeah, Brian Robinson from Alabama is probably the most pro-ready of the guys that I'm talking about now. He's a 3-down back because he can block also. But I like Damian Pierce, probably the best of the guys that were down there this week anyway. So
yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, Cook wasn't down there. There's a number of really good names that were supposed to be down there, didn't go.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Devin Lloyd didn't go. My guy Rashad Haskins, I was waiting for him to be down there. He wasn't down there. So it was very disappointing with some players. I mean, I can name like another handful of players that wasn't down there.
It wasn't, of course, the top 3 backs, which we kind of know who they are. They weren't there. Yeah. So basically, you were looking for who was going to be the 4th, the 5th, and 6th running back. So
Yeah. No, seriously. No, you're right. We didn't have some of the other names that.
Well, you didn't have.
I don't even know if they got invites or not, but they wasn't there. So
they weren't going to go. A game like that doesn't do anything for these guys because the running backs we're talking about are all anywhere from late first round through the second round, and then everybody's after that. So
no, 100%. So a guy that's really stood out to me, right, was Rashad White from Arizona State. Arizona State.
Arizona
State. Yeah. He impressed me during the practice. He was a practice guy. I thought he did really well. He showed a lot of burst, a lot of speed. He broke out multiple times during practices. So I think and this is not during practice they can't tackle. So sometimes you see somebody break out, but then you see a defensive tag them, or like in a good position for a tackle, but they pull up. So I don't really count those, but when I see a player like literally break down the field and then they're not touched or like they have good vision or things like that, that tells me that was a good running back. I mean, it is kind of hard to judge during practices because of that. But even during the games, I think that he showed very good vision and things like that. And I'm gonna pull up his stats real quick during the game. He had 11 rushes, which was most out of everybody, but he did have the most yards, 52, and the fourth best. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna say the fourth best because it was the other 2 were quarterbacks. So the second best running average out of running backs. So Rashad White was 11 for 52 yards and averaged 4.2 yards per carry. So that tells me a lot out of him. That showed me like whatever happened during practice carry over to the game. Real quick, right before I let you keep continuing, I just want to point out TJ Pledger, a guy that I didn't even realize he was on the roster until that game day. I never even heard of this guy. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. But during game day, he looked very impressive to me. He had 5 carries, 34 yards, but he averaged 6.6 yards per carry. And I seen that during the game. I mean, I'm on the field taking film, and I'm just noticing like, who's this Pledger guy? So he kind of like, for a guy that I didn't even realize was on the roster until game day, and I was there all week, tells you a lot that he very impressed me during the game. Anybody else that sticks up to you, or anybody you want to talk about TJ Ledger, Pledger, if you want?
I think he looked really good. I think that I think Brian Robinson from Alabama looked good. I mean, I expected him to look good, and he looked good. I think that Abram Smith from Baylor played fairly well. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good, decent, group of running backs. I think it's fairly deep. again, I think you have Kyron Williams and
Yeah.
a couple guys up ahead of them in the first couple rounds, and then these guys are
Cook,
Oh,
Zamian White.
yeah, I mean, yeah, for Michigan State running back and Cook, and I mean, you have some decent players in the first couple of rounds, and then everybody we saw will be drafted after those guys. At least I believe they will be.
Yeah.
But Damian Pierce was the one guy because he's a weird guy though because he's never gotten more than like 100 and some carries at Florida.
Really?
And I don't understand why, because every time I see the kid play, he plays well. I just don't,
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize he had less than 100 yards. So, 100 carries, sorry.
He had 106 carries this year, and he's never had more than 110 in any one season, which is kind of weird for a guy who shows up and plays as well as he did.
Yeah.
And every time I see Florida play, he always is productive. They just don't seem to want to give him the ball. And I know a lot of that is because that's how the running back position is now.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about our pass catchers. I mean, it's going to be wide receivers and tight ends, so we can kind of group them all together. Anybody impressed you during this, right? I know I have a couple of guys, but, this was a position where, again, they kind of suffered from the quarterback play. But if you look at practice and things, you could kind of see some things from certain guys. Who impressed you, Ray?
Calvin Austin, probably the most, especially during practice. He looked like a guy who he could do some really nice things for you. I was a little taken back that he's not even quite 5'8". That kind of bothered me because I had him listed at 5'9".
Right, I was there. You had him listed at 5'9"?
In my book.
Okay. So when we got down there,
5'9".
Right, when we got down there, he was listed as 5'7".
Yeah.
I'm telling you, right, I was on the field. He did not look like 5'7". He looked smaller than that.
Wow.
He looked smaller than that.
That scares me a little bit, but I think as a guy you put in motion, run jet sweeps, he's going to be a player for you. Yeah. He's got to find a way to get the ball in his hands.
I could be wrong because he was literally the shortest player there. So it could just be like, him around bigger guys make him look even smaller. And that could be the case because I'm 6 foot and I can pretty much judge anybody that's around my height or lower. If they're way too tall, I really can't judge them that much. But somebody that's either even shorter than me, I'm usually all right, I can kind of guess your size. He did not look like 5'7". I'm just gonna say that. But anyway, with that being said, he was electric. He was electric. Right?
He was.
He made some plays out there.
He's going to look really good in the Dolphins uniform this year.
Of course he's going to the Dolphins, right? Of course he is.
If he goes where he wants to go, he is, yeah.
What'd you say?
If he goes where he wants to go.
Yeah, you're right. But what stood out to you about Calvin Austin?
The different things you could do with him. Obviously I think that we're similar. You look at players, of course, you look for upside potential, and then you think about how you could use him in an offense. Mm-hmm. And he is the one guy who you could see them using. I don't know about out wide on a consistent basis, but I think in motion, again, jet sweeps, playing in the slot, give him a release. If you give him a release on both sides of the field, you better have guys out there that can cover it because this guy, he's got some real juice to him. So.
Yeah, two guys that he remind me of, and one of the guys obviously he's way shorter than him, and the other guy he reminds me of the style of play that he has. Do you remind me of Elijah Moore from that's play for Jets? Mm-hmm. He reminds me more of Elijah Moore, but I don't know if it was just a Memphis thing, but he reminded me of also Antonio Gibbs as far as being a cash. You can pin him at receiver, you can pin him at running back, he can do all the little small things for you and be very effective. Now, I don't think he's as good as a runner if you pin him in the backfield, obviously, but as a receiver and when you put Antonio Gibson, you can see what Memphis is looking for in their receivers and running backs. Guys that can do a little bit of everything. You can pin him in slot, you can pin him outside, this and that. He's a really good route runner, and that was really he was really good route running.
That was the thing that made him stand out. That's if if you could put him in a slot, and he's not going to be a kind of guy. He's just going to try to run by everybody. He's not. He's a good route runner. He really surprised me with that. How crisp he runs his routes. And here's the thing that, like, when you're a wide receiver, you can't change your head. You have to just run and then move side to side without moving your head, because that's what cornerbacks are back, and they're looking for your eyes to go somewhere, and then they're going to go there. But this guy didn't do that. He ran really crisp routes without changing his eye level, and the guy, he's going to be an exciting player. He really is. No, I think it's a really good group of wide receivers. I think we've talked about this like just about every week. It's a very good group of wide receivers. Sorry about that.
Phone call. But yeah, I agree with you. And like, I want to ask you a question, because I'm not gonna talk too much about this guy, because if you were watching the Senior Bowl special, you've seen literally every podcast I was talking about this guy the entire time. So I want to know what's your opinion on him. I'm gonna kind of stay quiet on him. I'm not gonna put too much into him. But Christian Watson, what was your opinion on him? Because I raved about him the entire weekend, and then by practice 3, I started hearing everybody else start kind of picking up on it. What was your assessment on Christian Watson?
I thought he played very well. Again, did everything you asked him to do. Was very impressed with him. I mean, again, I got to watch a little bit of the game. I didn't get to watch all of the practices, so I don't know how he looked in practice, but in the game he played very well.
Yeah, I mean, in the game, I think he only got targeted once. If I'm looking for it now. I think he caught one ball and was only targeted even one. Yeah, he had one for 38 yards. No, he got targeted twice. He caught one for 38 yards. But it was a great catch. 38-yard catch says a lot. That means he got separation and got up the field. I just think that, he really impressed with me in there. I mean, as far as route running, getting open, great hands. And I said I wasn't going to talk too much about him, but he really impressed me. And he's a guy that I would love to have like as a developmental kind of receiver for like the Eagles, because I really hate the fact like the Eagles do not have depth at the wide receiver position, and they haven't for years. Even when they get one good guy or one solid guy, they never had depth. Like you see the teams that were in the playoffs, like a 49ers who had like Jawan Jenkins as their like third or fourth receiver. You got the Bills who have Gabriel Davis. You have the two teams that are in there now. You have the Rams who have Odell Beckham, and they have what's his name?
Cup.
Oh yeah, I'm trying not to say the obvious name.
No.
We know Cooper Cup, but Van Jefferson on there, and then the Bengals, they have what's his name? Start for T. Their third receiver.
Yeah.
Higgins and
T. Higgins. Yeah.
T. Higgins. Yeah.
So Jamar Chase.
Huh?
You're not talking about the number one guys, though, right?
Who's the number one guy? Not
Chase.
Not Chase. I'm thinking about the other one.
T. Higgins.
No.
Boyd.
There you go. Tyler Boyd. There.
Yeah, but
I'm thinking about T. Yeah, Tyler Boyd.
That's the thing. Like with Cincinnati, like I know we don't get it's pro football, but their line is not great, but their skill players are very good.
Yeah. Even there's another guy they have. There's a really taller receiver that they have. That I was like, yo, if the Eagles can get him, I think they re-signed him, but all season he was a free agent, and they re-signed him and then drafted Chase. But he was a good fourth receiver for them, that wasn't Chase, the top few guys. So each one of these teams, these playoffs teams, have depth at the receiver position. I would love the Eagles to kind of do that. So somebody like a Christian Watkins, you can get in like maybe the fourth round, maybe fifth round. I think he will be an incredible piece. And like, I like it. Go ahead.
I like him because of his length. Yeah. He's a tall kid. He's like 6'5". Nice long arms. I mean, I think that part of his game will translate into the NFL. Obviously, you can't teach size.
Yeah.
So I think that part of his game, and he's very fluid in his move. His body control is really nice. And
very.
Again, I didn't get to see a lot of the practice. When I did see, that's why I did say that was a frustrating thing about the game. The game was offensively, like it wasn't great. I mean, it just wasn't. I mean, you saw some plays be made, but nothing really came of a lot of it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. All right, let's get to the tight ends real quick. Who's out to you in the tight end group?
Trey McBride. I think he was head and shoulders above everybody else as far as the tight end position. I think he played good. I think that I like Cole Turner from Nevada. I think he's a nice again. He's more of a receiving tight end, but he's got good size to him. He's a 6'6" kid.
Yeah.
I think they're the two guys that I know what to expect from Charlie Kohler. I know he's a good pass catcher.
Right.
Jeremy Rickert from Ohio State, he's a good blocker. Yeah. But those two guys, Trey McBride is probably the best all-around tight end absolutely that day that was there. And I like Cole Turner from Nevada. I think he's a nice player.
Definitely. No, 100%. I agree. For me, and let me see. I'm going to look at the stats again real quick. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if he had a target, but my guy, Isaiah Likely, you guys already know. I interviewed him. He's one of my favorite tight ends here, and I think he has a lot of potential. He didn't get a lot of targets, but I do like the fact that he was blocking really well. Yeah, so, and that was one of the knocks on him, that he probably wasn't a great blocker. He showed off his blocking this weekend, so I'm very happy for him. I'm glad for him. And another guy that I loved was Jake Ferguson. I was one of the guys that went down there and was like, he catch the ball better than people think. He's not just a blocker. I will say, and I said this in the Senior Bowl special, that he was very disappointing the first two practices. The second practice, obviously, it was raining, so everybody was dropping balls, and it was just sloppy passing, and it wasn't a great day. I don't know too much about the third practice, but the game, he showed out. I mean, he had let me see. Obviously, Trey was one of the guys that everybody knew, but Ferguson, three catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. And he caught all three targets. So that I was very encouraged by seeing what he did during the game. Ray, you got anything to say about those two guys?
Again, I think that, like you said, he played fairly well in the game, and I think that the reason why you don't know what to expect from Ferguson is because he plays in Wisconsin. They don't throw the ball.
They're a run team, yeah.
So that's why you don't see. But he absolutely is a nice looking athlete. He looks the part. I think that he is a guy who needs to put on 10 pounds so he can actually really physically block at the NFL level. Yeah. But I think he's definitely a kid. Again, I think that the tight end group is a nice group. I do.
Yeah, and Ferguson is definitely a guy that I would love the Eagles to pair up with Goddard. I think that would be great to get him in like the 5th, 6th round maybe. And I think I'm pretty sure you can get him around there. I'm not sure, but I think he'll be great to pair up with him, to be honest. And it's funny. So I was talking to somebody, and somebody made this comparison. I was like, dude, that's exactly what I say. Oh, Ray, I think it was you last week, actually, our last podcast. I believe you compared them to Brent Selleck.
Brent Selleck, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a nice player.
I love another Brent Selleck, man.
Yeah, man. I am I'm a Brent Selleck fan, man. Liked him at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I didn't like his coach back then, but no, I did. Brian Kelly was Brent Selleck's coach.
Yeah, I know.
No, I mean, I've always been a Brent Selleck fan. I think he's a good football player. He was a smart player. The Eagles tight ends are always good guys, man. I don't know how they do it. They're always good guys, man. Yeah. Always.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's get to the offensive line, man, because this is I want to know how you felt about it, because honestly, I felt like a little disappointed with the offensive line in this Senior Bowl. A little bit. A couple of guys stood out, but like it was nothing exceptional. I mean, it was a very, very good defensive line. It was a very good defensive line. So I don't want to take too much stock away from them because they're playing against a good defensive line, but they're going to be playing against a good defensive line every Sunday. So I want to know what you felt about the overall play and if anybody stood up to you, sir.
Well, I can't really talk about the game because, again, like we say, continuity at the offensive line position is the most important thing, and you didn't see any of it. You could tell you had 5 guys that were just thrown out there and playing. They weren't playing together. They were playing. Mm-hmm. But the 2 guys during the practices that stood out to me were Trevor Penny and Cole Strange.
Yeah.
I think that Penning, the term "play till the echo of the whistle" comes in play. He was basically manhandling guys and then talking crap to them about manhandling them. The one thing that he did do, which was really stupid, was he threw the defensive lineman right into the quarterback Desmond Ritter's lap, and that is a big time no. I'm sure that they told him that's a big time no.
Yeah.
In our at the next level, we pay our quarterbacks a lot of money, and you just don't do that. Yeah. But he looked really good. He looked the part. He looked like John Runyon 20 years ago. He did. And I'm a big Cole Strange fan. Interior lineman from Chattanooga. I think he's a good football player. And he's another guy who plays with a little edgy, a little chippiness to him. And I think that's important in offensive lineman. I think that's what you saw in practice, and that's what you're going to, as a coach, that's what you want to see from them. You want guys that play with a bulldog type mentality. And that's what you saw them two guys do. I mean, I'm a big Zion Johnson, Ed Ingram fan, again, interior lineman. And I like Chris Paul from Tulsa. I think he's a nice, versatile player. But to me, at least during the practice, I couldn't take a whole lot from the game because they looked like five guys that had never played together before. And that's basically what you got in the game. But I think Penning and Strange were the guys that stood out above everybody else. So.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because that was the talk that I heard being down there. Penny and Strange were the two guys that really stood out to everybody. I was a little disappointed in my Michigan guy, the lone Michigan guy down there, Mr. Andrew Stewart. He seemed like he was struggling a little bit. I did hear he had a really good last practice on Thursday, and he did really well in there. As far as the game, it was again, like you said, it was hard to kind of judge how the offensive line were. I know American team gave up 8 sacks. That's not acceptable.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jerome. In this game, I know that people are going, "Oh, you can't do that," but maybe they should make it so you can't stunt anymore, because they were stunting inside and they were coming in clean. Yeah. And if you really want to evaluate players and you're not evaluating the team, you're evaluating players still.
Correct.
To let them stunt like that against guys that have never played together before, probably is a little unfair.
No, I agree. And maybe that's something they might change. I know in the Pro Bowl, they don't let them do stuff like that.
I mean, I'm not talking about physicality. I don't care how physical you are. You can be as physical you want, but you're taking advantage of offensive linemen that have never played together before. So again, like, who do I take on an inside count? Who am I taking? Well, you don't know because you've never played with the guy next to you before. Definitely. You don't know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are.
Yeah, and as you see behind me, they're showing the play where Isaiah likely had the nice block to get Sam Howell the touchdown right there. But speaking of blocking, I think the pass blockers this in the senior row were fairly good guys. I mean, you didn't have anybody that was really bad, but like again, nothing really moved the needle that much.
The one guy on the offensive line that I expected more from was Daniel Foley from Minnesota. He was just getting like bull rushed by guys, and that really surprised me. You can't be a 6'8", 6'9", almost 400-pound guy. Right. And maybe he needs to lose a little weight, gain some quickness, and I didn't think he played well. I think he looked overmatched at times, to be honest with you. And when you're a 380-pound guy, you can't do that.
Yeah, he looked kind of not out of place, but like kind of wild by the moment in a sense, where guys would do certain moves on him, he was kind of like thrown back by it. But right, I'm telling you, if you were down there and you see him on the field, he stood out of everybody. He's
out. He's a legitimate 6'8" and something, and 380, 390 pounds. He's going to stand out. He looks more like a pro wrestler than a football player. But he played like a pro wrestler too, and that's not good. So
Or they're looking like the Big Show. If you guys don't know that wrestling reference.
Well, the Big Show didn't put on a good show. So
No, he didn't. All right, let's get to the defense because defense is dominated. We had three three MVPs. We had the MVP of the game, which was wow, why am I blanking on his name?
I did not see that, Jerome, so I don't know who that was.
I'm sorry. Perry and Winfrey. Sorry.
Okay.
Perry and Winfrey won the MVP of the game. The American team was D'Angelo Malone, a guy that I had as my sleeper for the Senior Bowl. He played extremely well this entire week. And for the national team, it was national team. It was oh man, who was it? Jesse Lucetta. So right out of the defensive lineman, and it's funny they have Jesse Lucetta as a linebacker on my sheet right here, but he's mainly playing with his hand in the dirt. So I don't know if they meant like edge rusher, but he was definitely had his hand in the dirt. Ray, what's your takeaway from the defensive line group?
I think that you saw guys, and I think most of the defensive linemen played pretty well. Yeah. I'm going to go by like what practice, what I saw mostly. I think Jermaine Johnson from Florida State stood out over everybody. I think he commanded the week. He owned practices. He played well in the game.
Yeah,
he earned himself that. I've seen mock drafts where he's a top, where somebody's taking him in the top 10.
Yep.
I think he's a top 10 pick, no later than a top 15. I wouldn't take him in the top 5 yet, but we'll see how things go. And him, and I like Travis Jones from UConn. I think Travis Jones basically picked up the center and sacked the quarterback with the center in one play. He played really well in practice and in the game. So
nah, definitely, I agree with that. A guy I'm gonna point out, obviously, like I said, we were down there looking for Arnold Epiketti, a guy that we interviewed before. We knew him from when we interviewed him right before he came to Penn State. He was transferring from Temple to Penn State, so he just got into spring camp with Penn State, and we got to talk to him. Went down there thinking, man, this guy's gonna be very dominant, which he was. He wasn't bad at all. Don't get me. I don't want to take anything away from him, but with him being down there, it took away from his counterpart, which was Jesse Lucetta, and he was standing out even more than Ebenefbi. I mean, Lucetta was really showing out, and it showed from him having the national team MVP, but he was a guy that I have to look at again because I didn't know much about him going into the Senior Bowl. I heard of his name. I didn't know much about him, and I wasn't really expecting him to show out the way he did. And he looked very well. He's one of those guys. He's one of those few guys that I'm like, I got to look at tape again because it's no way that I didn't hear about him like that, and now he's dominated at the Senior Bowl. So he's one of those guys that makes me want to go back and look at tape.
I think Lucetta played well. I think that at Penn State is kind of a situational type guy.
Yeah.
So, I think he showed that he is going to be that. I think again, the edge class, the defensive lineman is probably the strength of this draft. So I'm not surprised. Like I love Boy Mafe from Minnesota and Kingsley Engelbart from South Carolina.
Yeah.
D'Angelo Malone, me and you have both touched on the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I think these guys are really, really good football players. And if you're looking for edge linemen, you're coming to the right draft for sure. So
definitely. You know, it's funny. Mafe Boye or Boye Mafe and Jesse Lucetta had almost exactly the same stats.
They did.
They did. Both had 3 tackles, both had 2 sacks, both have a forced fumble. Boye had 1 more TFL than Jesse. Mafe had 3 and Lucetta had 2. But I think it was like we said in the beginning, the defensive line was the strong point of this whole Senior Bowl, I think, and they really I think they made money this weekend. I
agree with, and the crazy thing is the depth there.
Yeah.
Like you took off one good football player and put another one right back on the field to take his place. And that really, for a defensive coach, is a dream. It really is. So I think the defenses went out there thinking, I have 2 or 3 rotations of defensive linemen where I could throw a lot of things. Again, that's why I don't know if it was fair to run these guys as good as they are and then stunt I mean,
Yeah,
I just
right.
don't get that. Like,
You're right.
again, I hit him as hard as you want. I'm fine with that.
Mhm.
But to run a stunt against a guard and a center that you know is not only overmatched, a little unprepared. I mean, it just didn't seem fair to me. So
No, I agree. And I just think it was a great. It was fun watching them, and defensive line is not always defensive offensive line is not always the sexiest thing to look at, especially in a day and age where
unless you like winning games,
huh?
unless you like winning games, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I know it's not the sexiest spots, but dude, it was so fun watching the defensive line down there. But let's get to the linebackers. Ray and I want to hear who you think was some of the better linebackers to you. Because there's one I'm particular going to mention. So go ahead, Ray.
Devin Lloyd didn't play, huh?
No.
Why?
I don't know. I didn't get any information out of that.
There.
It was nobody talking about it. He didn't practice either.
Okay.
So right before the first practice, so we all went down there on Monday. Everybody went down there. All the players went down there for measurements and weigh-ins. Devin Lloyd was not on there. The wide receiver from Penn State, Jahan Dotson, he wasn't down there. Like I said earlier, Rashad Hawkins wasn't Rashad Hawkins Haskins, sorry. Rashad Haskins wasn't down there. And then, a couple of other players were down there. It was like super last minute. It wasn't down there. Just flying people in last minute to replace them. The reason I don't know. It was just weird that they accepted it, and literally the week of they kind of dropped off. And it seemed like they all dropped out at the same time. So I don't know what was going on with that. I didn't hear anything after that, though. And it's weird because usually when you're in that setting, you start hearing buzzes around from media because we're around media the whole time. Nothing. So I don't know. That was really weird.
Nothing was COVID related, correct?
Not that I know of. I mean, if it was COVID related, I could see why it wasn't under wraps and nobody knew about it. But
right.
Other than that, I can't see why. I really don't understand. I don't know. But for the guys that were there, who stood out to you, sir?
I like Troy Anderson from Montana State. I think in the practice and in the game, he played very well.
I hate it.
He's the one guy who looked the part. I like Darian Beavers from Cincinnati, another kid who's a big thumper, inside linebacker.
Yeah.
They were the guys that in practice and in the game played fairly well. If you ask me though, I love Troy Anderson. I think that he could be a difference maker as a second level defender. I think you could do a lot of different things with him because of his athleticism and his solid size, 6'4", 235. I mean, he looked every bit the part at practice and in the game. Again, it was a little bit hard to judge the linebackers because the defensive line dominated on both sides of the ball. So that was really hard to get a good feel for them. But Anderson was the one guy who kind of looked that stood out above everybody else to me. So
yeah, I agree. I knew you was gonna mention his name. I knew it. Chad Muma, best linebacker down there. He was the best one down there. I'm telling you, his instincts was really well. Everybody was saying this too, and it wasn't just me. So it was not. Don't think it was me. Everybody was saying he's a more athletic Logan Wilson. He was all around the ball every play.
So what that means? He's going to run a 4.6 40 or 4.75 40?
He was looking good though. He was running the ball every time, Ray. And I know you don't like Logan Wilson. I
didn't like Logan Wilson. Don't put words in my mouth.
Ray, he got picked in the second round, like I say he was going to.
He got picked in the third round, but that's okay.
No, second round, sir.
I think the first pick in the third round, but that's okay.
Second. All right, I got to fact check you on that. But what do you think? I want to hear what you think about Chad Muma because he was the buzz that I was hearing also down there as a linebacker that was always around the ball.
No, he moves well. I'm not going to say he's more athletic than this guy or that guy because neither one of them probably are going to run that well. But he looked well. He played well. He looked like he could do some things in coverage, which were nice, I think. But again, it's hard to get a good feel for linebackers when the defensive linemen are throwing guys all over the field. So, you know.
Right. I will say you were right about Logan Wilson. He was a third rounder, a beginner third rounder. I give you that. Definitely, you got that. But he got drafted a lot higher than you thought. And
no, he got drafted higher than I would have picked him.
No, he got drafted higher than you thought, too.
He got drafted higher than I would have picked him. Some of these quarterbacks are going to get taken in the first round, too, but that doesn't make me wrong. It just makes me disagree with the guys that are going to be wrong.
Okay. What do you say, Ray? Whatever you say, make yourself sound good. It's okay. No.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, I don't take linebackers before the fourth round unless they're true impact linebackers.
Yeah.
And in today's football, where are those guys?
Yeah, I think we have some this year, though. I really do. I think we have a few.
I mean, I love the linebacker position, man. I'm waiting for Zach Thomas to go in the Hall of Fame every day for the last 10 years, to be honest with you. But if Zach Thomas is a fifth-round pick, where are these guys going to get taken? So
no,
and he played when Asher ran the ball.
Yeah. So we'll definitely see how this goes, man. But Chad Muma, I think he was the best linebacker down there. But let's get to DBs. Obviously, my favorite position. We're gonna get into that, and that's gonna be the last position. Since we're running out a little bit out of time. Who stood out to you? Because again, this was hard to evaluate.
This was a hard position. I'm going to go with what I saw in practice, and I like Jalen Petrie from the safety from Baylor. I think he stood out as a player who played with his head and showed good anticipation in his back pedal. Mm-hmm. And I just think that he's a good football player. I mean, there's a lot of good defensive backs this year.
Yeah,
there are. The problem is that you didn't see a lot of that in the Senior Bowl because they didn't do anything because the defensive lines were so dominant again. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do against a defensive line that's dominant? You're going to get rid of the ball. You're not going to really take time and try to throw it downfield.
Yeah.
So it just really was hard. I mean, I felt the same way as I felt about – I like a lot of these guys. I think Joshua Williams from Fayetteville State is a very good player. I think he's going to be nice. I think he's a guy you're going to get later in the draft, which is, of course, because he's a small school. Petrie, I like. I like Jalen Watson from Washington State. I like Kirby Joseph from Illinois. I like Zion McCullum from Sam Houston State. But there's a lot of guys that I like, but none of them really stood out in this game. A lot of them did very well in practice, but none of them really stood out in the game. So
no, and I agree with that. I think Kobe Bryant kind of made a name for himself at the practices as well. He played really well. I think he was the only one that really you can't give a good evaluation during the game. Actually,
I agree with that, and I like Kobe Bryant, but I didn't mention him because I like Kobe Bryant all year. I think he's a good football player. So I didn't mention him because I didn't really change my opinion on him after the Senior Bowl. It is what it is. I watched the kid play. He's a smart, instinctive player. Mm-hmm. I don't know about his length. I can't wait to see how long his arms are and how tall he is.
And they did announce that. I wish I had the numbers in front of you to tell you. I kind of forgot. Obviously, Roger McCreary was a guy that I was super excited to see down here. And again, it was hard to watch DBs, and he had a very disappointing measurables, which isn't the biggest thing. But for me as an ex-DB, I always use my length of my arms to my advantage all the time. Right. He had very short arms. I mean, and I'm never the type to be like, the measurements, look at the measurements, and then be like, oh yeah, he that worries me. But like, I got to stand and talk to him in person and stand right next to him. His arms are short. His arms are very short. Even for a smaller quarterback, because I'm taller than him. I'm a bigger guy. I'm bigger than him. But for a smaller cornerback, I've seen guys smaller cornerbacks, but they got longer arms, and he has short arms. He really has short.
See, that's the thing. Like, I don't get me wrong. More height is always better than less height. I'll be the first one to admit that.
Yeah.
But I will go by their arm length more than anything else, because if you look at Asante Samuel, he was a short guy, but he had really long arms for such a short guy. And he was always, and he would bait you into making bad throws. And when you have them long arms, man, it makes it easier for you to get to the ball.
No, 100%.
And this way, when you have short arms and you're reaching around, they're going to call holding on you. But when you have the longer arms, you don't need to reach as far. Your body's not going to be as close. And the perception is you're not holding.
Yep. No, 100%. 100%.
You know?
So, and I think that makes Jalen Ramsey, like, he makes a living out of that.
Yeah, he's a stud, man.
Yeah.
Why he's a stud?
Yeah.
You know, I don't – you know how I feel about cornerbacks. I think that they're only as good as the 7 guys in front of them. But if you have longer arms and you can get more plays on the ball, you know, Howard from Miami, the guy's only 5'11", but he has long arms and makes plays.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, no, definitely right. I agree with that. Oh, Harley. So I want to kind of put up 2 names real quick. That impressed me. At least one in the practice and one just overall. The one practice guy is a small school guy, Mr. Gregory Jr. I mean, I liked him during the practice. He was going against some of the best guys. He was actually going against my guy Christian Watson, and he was very impressive. Going against him. Small school guy. I can't tell you the school.
Ochita Baptist.
Thank you, Ray. Ochita Baptist. A guy that nobody knew. Nobody knows him down there, but I don't think anybody was. I mean, I could be wrong. I didn't hear anybody else really talk about him, but for me, as a former DB, he impressed me. He really impressed me.
I like him a lot, actually. I didn't use him because, again, he didn't really stand out in practice.
I thought he did.
Well, I didn't see that. Maybe it was a day I missed. But I know he's going to have arms that are at least 33 inches long. Yeah. And that's what impresses me. Yeah. If they have the tools, I can teach them. But they got to have the tools.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's not a finished product. He's still kind of.
Well, none of these guys are finished product, man.
Yeah.
When these guys stop improving, and they're done. I heard a coach say today, and this is a great saying: you never stay the same as a player. You either get better or you get worse.
Definitely.
When you start getting worse, it's time to retire.
Oh, 100%. And the other guy that impressed me all week, if there's a team out there that's looking for a box safety, look no other than Leon O'Neal. He was very impressive during the game, during practices. He had one of the best. He was in the box a lot during the game, and he had 5 total tackles in the game. The next best person of that was D'Angelo Malone, and then the next person after that was Chad Lamua. So he had the second best tackles, and if you need a box safety, he's your guy. I thought he did really well, even when he was in coverage. He did well, and you know when I'm not a fan of the box safety, but like if you're a box safety that can cover at least decently enough, and then you do really well against the run, I like you. So that's the guy that I want to kind of bring some light to because he wasn't super flashy or anything like that, but he was always around the ball as well.
I think that you're going to see where O'Neal and then JoJo Denham from Nebraska, they're going to be the guys that teams are going to use as hybrid linebacker type guys.
Oh yeah, because
you play these guys
linebacker.
Yeah, you play these guys in a 4-2-5. And they can do some decent things in coverage, and they're good physical football players. Yeah. I think that is the way the games we hear the term, positionless football. These are those guys. O'Neal and JoJo are going to be the guys that, when they're going to always creep up to the line of scrimmage and until they get their read, and then they're going to do what they do. But you can see them guys as guys that can cover a little bit, and then guys that can come up field and make tackles. Again, if they have long arms, I'm going to love them, but I don't know that yet.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think they did very well as for what they was asked to do in those positions. So I like both of them guys. I just want to share light on some safety hybrid guys too, because I usually don't. So
I think that because of, honestly, Jerome, I think the quarterback play was so subpar in this game that it was really hard to get a feel for anything on offense. Yeah. The only reason I said the offense is good, I think the quarterbacks completed a decent amount of passes. There were just no plays that were made with them passes.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So that was hard to get a judge for them. Like if you looked at the quarterback crop, which I do as pedestrian kind of, like game managers maybe, that is like man, what am I going to do on offense if I have game managers? Where before, you actually saw some guys that were exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, man, and I totally agree with you, man. The Senior Bowl is always one of my favorite things to do every single year, and it was exciting to see how everything transpired this weekend, and now it's draft time, man. We got the combine coming up, we got everything, but before we get to that, we have one last game of football, and that is the Senior Bowl, the Super Bowl. So Ray, before we get off, and I know this is not a NFL podcast, but it's the Super Bowl. We gotta have our prediction. So I want to know who you think is gonna win this Sunday, man.
I got the Rams.
I'm going Rams as well. I know Rams is your son's favorite team. I'm going because I think they have a better overall team.
Correct.
The Bengals have a really good offense and a solid defense. The only thing I will say is if we get the better side of Matthew Stafford, they're gonna definitely win. If we get the subpar, sometimes give away a couple of interception, Matthew Stafford, who kind of down the stretch kind of started, giving up the ball a little bit. I think it's gonna be. I still not gonna say they're gonna lose, but it's gonna be a lot tighter game.
I think that the Rams are a better all-around team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Cincinnati is a good team. Their offense, again, as far as skill players, are good.
Yeah.
Their offensive line scares me in this game.
No, I agree. But the one thing else, especially with going against not Adrian Peterson, Aaron Donald. But I will say this, I guess, with the Rams offense that nobody's been saying, the addition of Cam Akers is so good for the Rams. So good. Cam Akers makes this offense so much better. And it's not a nod to Sony Michel, because he did do a fairly well job in his absence. But Cam Akers being on the field is so much better for his offense. It opens so much up. He gets open lanes. Like Cam Akers, they missed Cam Akers this year for real. As good as this offense was, they missed him for real.
Yeah, I wish that the other wide receiver Jones was playing for the Rams. I think that they're going to miss him a lot.
Woods?
What's that?
Robert Woods? You mean?
Robert Woods, yeah. Robert Woods. I'm sorry, Robert Woods. I think that not having him could hurt them a little bit, but I think that again, I'm a Cam Akers fan. I like Cam Akers a lot. I think having him in the offense opens up your passing game.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's funny. Sony Michel is probably a better pass blocker, but if you put Akers out there in the slot, let him do some things in the passing game, I think he could be a difference maker there. I just think the Rams are a better team.
Yeah,
I do. I think that people talk about Stafford like he's not a good quarterback, man. I just don't see that, man. Like,
and this is why I want him to I know Jerbo. I feel like Jerbo is going to get back to the Super Bowl. I want Stafford to get his Super Bowl, man, because people crap on him, and he's such a good quarterback, man.
He's such a good guy, man. I don't understand the hate that the guy goes through. I understand here's what bothers me. He played in Detroit for 12 years, whatever it was. Never really did anything. A couple years, I think they made the playoffs, but they didn't do anything because they're Detroit Lions. I think when your old defensive coordinator was a coach there, they made the playoffs at least once, maybe twice.
Okay.
They didn't win. Yeah. They didn't win because they're the Detroit Lions.
Schwartz, that's what I say.
Jim Schwartz, yeah. They didn't win, but people look at the quarterback. I hate this, and I'm never going to understand it. Why is it Calvin Johnson is a first ballot Hall of Famer, even though he never won nothing? Barry Sanders is a surefire, one of the best pure runners ever to play football, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he never won anything. The quarterback is the only guy that gets judged on wins and losses. Why is that?
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
It's annoying.
Right. No, you're right about that, right?
Teams win championships. Individual players put up stats, but teams win championships. If you look at Matthew Stafford's stats, they're awesome.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing you say, he's never won anything. But that is the only position where you're judged on wins and losses. I don't get it.
That's true.
They're
Right?
not the
That's
coach,
true.
man. They're the player.
No, you're right. That's 100% right, Ray. I agree with you 100% on that. So.
I find it so annoying when people like I watch Matthew Stafford play. I watched him play at Georgia. The kid is a stud. Okay, period.
He is. Stud. No, I agree, and that's why I want him to win. So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
No, I was about to close, but go ahead.
No, I'm just like I understand. Like again, he didn't win a lot of games, and of course he threw picks, dude. He's a quarterback. Yeah. I mean, like Brett Favre threw more picks than anybody. What does that mean? At least he was willing to throw the ball to try to win the game.
Yeah.
That's why I don't take it. That's why I don't hold it against him.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have a guy like that than a guy who's afraid to throw the ball. Like, oh my God, I can't do this. You know, like I just don't. I don't get it, man.
You made him a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm just saying.
Well, Brett Favre is easily a first ballot Hall of Famer, dude.
Oh yeah, he was easy.
Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Fame quarterback. People can say whatever they want. Yeah. I'll go with what I know. Now, will we get in? Of course not, because the media guys are the biggest idiots that cover football. These beat writers are the worst, man. I listened to 7 different podcasts for the Miami Dolphins. 2 of them are good.
No, I agree. So, yeah, but you got the Rams. I got the Rams. I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday football. The Super Bowl is here, guys. And then we got draft season, so we're definitely make sure you keep it locked right here. Yes, our Super Bowl is draft season, man. So keep it locked right here on RPO Podcast. Shout out to our guys at the Air It Out Podcast. They're gonna be talking more about the Super Bowl tomorrow, so make sure you check that out on Thursday. If you're not watching live right now, it's gonna be Thursday at 6:00, so Eastern time. So go make sure you check that out. Or hit that on the replay as well. But guys, make sure you hit us up on ours even if you're not live right now, and I'm guessing you're not. So hit us up on the replay as well on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on our website, InsideTheHashes.com. You find all our content. You can see some of the Senior Bowl pictures up there. You can see the interviews on there, all that on there as well. Go make sure you hit Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. You find a lot of player interviews. We're gonna have a lot of great players that we about to interview that are going into the draft. So make sure you go check that out Inside the Hashes on those platforms as well. And make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Inside the Hashes. Make sure you go like and subscribe on there and hit that notification button. But if you want to leave a comment on there, please make sure you do that. Maybe we talked about a player that you liked at the Senior Bowl, or maybe there's a player we didn't talk about that you liked at the Senior Bowl. Make sure you put your comment in there. We will. I promise you, we will reply back to you. So make sure you put that in there as well. And guys, just hit that notification button. Just hit that like button. Help us out, man. Help us grow. Help us get to that point where we talking about these great players and things like that. So guys, that's gonna do it for us today, man. I'm super excited about the draft season. I'm super excited about the Super Bowl. I'm happy I got to go to the Senior Bowl. Ray, we gotta get you down there. Let's campaign for Ray. Ray at Senior Bowl, right down there. Hashtag it. Ray at Super Bowl, right down there. Do that for me. But guys, that's gonna do it for us today. Hope you guys enjoyed your Super Bowl Sunday. Hope you guys stay safe out there. Again, like I said, stay locked in because we got so much draft coverage coming up. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be cool. You're gonna really love it. So do that for me and check us out again next week. So I'm Jerome Jones. This is Ray Roberts. This is the RPO Podcast, and I hope you have a good night. Peace.